Well, it's official. I have more guts than anybody else in the Tri-City sports media. Hey, it's Marky Billson, your voice of choice for a new generation of Tri-City sports fans. Name of the program, Tri-City Sports. Now, you know what we do. We own the Tri-Cities on 1420 WEMB Sports Radio, where I have the best guests, and you know that I have the hardest-hitting opinions in the market. Today's show, the best guest will be Jay Santos. He, of course, is the voice of the ETSU Buccaneers, and they have been in the... They've been in the mix. They've been what people are talking about. They've been put at the bottom of the third page on the Johnson City sports section. One of the biggest sports story of the day in the area, Jerome Rodriguez, whom head coach Steve Forbes feels could be the nation's leading rebounder next year, announced his intention to return to the Buccaneers to play for them in the 2019-20 season. And just came back from a press conference, had to leave it early to hit the show, certainly. But there was, yes, I asked Steve Forbes the tough questions, and I'm going to tell you what came out from it here in just a little bit. Of course, we'll be talking to Jay because there's so much going on right now. I mean, this return of Jerome Rodriguez to the Buccaneers makes them by far the favorite in the Southern Conference next season. And I know we're talking about, now 10 months away. But we are talking about a basketball program that, if they had Mladen Armus, I think really would have a chance to be nationally ranked next year. And that's what I'm going to get to here in just a second. With Rodriguez, yes, I think that ETSU is by far the favorite in the Southern Conference next year. And so this is something that, we can be talking about and whetting the appetite and all this. The Southern Conference, certainly with Wofford winning a game in the tournament against a team that really matched up well against them, Seton Hall getting a 7 seed. That was the highest the SoCon has ever received. And then going to, let's say, Kentucky. And although Kentucky was down a man, what if Fletcher McGee can hit a shot? Wofford wins. They're in the Sweet 16. Could that be ETSU next year? I mean, these are the things that we are going to be, that we need to discuss here in the next year. So, the decision to return, not try playing basketball overseas. Steve Forbes believes that it will help his draft stock, although says, he's probably not going to play in the NBA, but, it was a matter of you got to go overseas. What's going to happen there? Maybe you're better off coming back for your senior year, going to grad school to improve your lot. What if you're the nation's leading rebounder? What if you're the player of the year in the SoCon? How does that help your lot against where you are right now? Intriguing. But the thing is, there won't be Mladen Armus. Now, I don't think that's going to prevent ETSU from winning the Southern Conference, but I do think Armus is a fine player. And in fact, I think last year, if there was one definitive moment, or if there was one memorable moment of the ETSU basketball season, it was when Bubba Parham had his three-pointer to try to tie the game against ETSU. Bubba Parham, late of VMI, now at Georgia Tech, he transferred up. Here's the situation. His last-second block, that saved ETSU's 85-82 victory against VMI, and I think that was the visual highlight of the year. But without him, that's the difference between ETSU being an NCAA tournament team and possibly nationally ranked. But this is where I wonder, everyone's saying, why didn't Armus come back? Why didn't Armus come back? Why didn't Armus come back? And here's what I know. Here's the timeline. Armus was on the court at the end of ETSU's 81-72 loss to Wofford, whereas Rodriguez was on the bench for the final 6-11. Both players missed the next game. It was played 10 games later, 102-94 CIT loss to Green Bay. That was because of concussion protocol. Now, despite this 10-day gap between games, it was never announced that Armus nor Rodriguez were injured. Practices were closed. And even the pregame notes listed both players in the starting lineup. So ETSU is being very secretive about this. There's no way of denying that. On this radio show, Jason Shea, assistant coach, said that the injuries of Rodriguez and Armas were both suffered during the Wofford game. Now, that would indicate that Armas was on the court when he shouldn't have been. Okay, I mean, that's just what I'm coming to. And regardless, when after 10 days, closed practices, concussion protocols, what you say, why wasn't this ever, said, hey, look, Armas and Rodriguez, they're hurt. Why is it, are they trying to sell tickets? Trying to deceive Green Bay. They did deceive their own SID department because it had Armas and Rodriguez in the starting lineup in the pregame notes. But then if you were Armas and you were treated this way, and we're trying to figure out why he transferred, okay, would you, after being treated that way, consider greener pastures? Now, I asked Steve Forbes about this, and he got testy with me. How dare you question my integrity? This sort of thing, Took a shot at my writing, all this sort of stuff. Okay, I'm a big boy. I understand that. And I also understand I'll probably take the brunt of any criticism because Steve Forbes is a popular coach. He's too secure, makes more money than I do. He's very popular, and he's winning. So, but that doesn't mean that I am not going to ask a question that I think might protect a player's health in the future. And I'm just, that's the thing here. I am more concerned, and also any coach saying, don't ask me that question, how dare you question, all this, that provides a slippery slope. I can't ask you this, then when does that mean I can't ask you about, say, calling timeout at the end of the UNCG game? Or why was so-and-so on the court? What was the decision of this? What was the consideration here? When a game strategy or something. Now, like I said, it's okay, but that's why I am going to ask such questions. And we don't know. There's not been a statement from Armas made. This is why we're, coming out. I have consistently said what's good for the coach is good for the player. If Armas wants to transfer to a MWC school, then I would think that it would be... I can't understand why fans would get on Armas for doing that, but they didn't really get on Forbes for interviewing with an MWC school 2 years ago. That was New Mexico. Oh, he's entitled to do that. MWC, by the way, Mountain West Conference. They are as good as the SoCon was last year. They were ranked 15 in the NET rankings. They're ranked number 12 overall in was the MWC, so 3 spots ahead in the NET rankings. So you're actually moving up a little bit in terms of conferences. MWC has made the NCAAs with at-large bids in the past. SoCon hasn't. So you've got that, too. That would be why Forbes wants to go to New Mexico, And that's understandable. All I'm saying is that I think that I didn't like the way that this was handled by ETSU with Armas and Rodriguez, where we didn't know until game time that they were in concussion protocol. And when one of those players transfers away and he was on the court at the end of the Southern Conference tournament, what else can I come up with? What else are you going to come up with? How dare you question my integrity? I'm sorry, Steve Forbes, but I've got to ask, why is he transferring? Could this be a reason why? No, I'm not questioning your integrity. I am asking, is this a reason why? Now, if you feel that, questions your integrity, I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. I think that that's my line, that, you don't like my line of questioning. You didn't like, he also said to me, that, I saw you wrote about New Mexico. I didn't get more money for interviewing at New Mexico. Well, you're making $650,000 a year now. And that wasn't your original contract. You're getting, and it's only natural when you're in demand that you'd get more coin. I'm not criticizing you for getting more money. I don't even understand why that's more power to you, coach. I wish I had those opportunities, okay? I mean, if you want to know it. But yeah, he's making more now than when he wasn't making $650 a year 2 years ago. I know that much. So anyway, like I said, I am going to say, if I feel that I've got to ask the questions that I think that the audience really needs to know. Everyone wants to know, why did Armas transfer? Well, considering the secretiveness of this, I even mentioned look, I mean, you close practice. You don't do that. You've never done that before. By the way, closing practice never works. It's been done before, and I never know when it's worked. In fact, I can recall in my background, I know as a young journalism student and all that, I interned at KDK Radio in Pittsburgh underneath a very hard-scrabble sportscaster named Goose Goslin, who used to like to scream profanities at me until I was about in tears every day. But nevertheless, there was a circumstance I can recall where the Steelers, back, many years ago, 27 years ago, there's some question who was going to start at quarterback for them. Well, Goose Goslin, who was the guy I interned in, had reported that both quarterbacks, it was Neil O'Donnell and Bubby Brister, to tell you the era it was, were practicing for the Steelers. And Bill Cowher didn't like that, and he tried to shut down the practices. And the NFL said none of that. Well, this is why I kind of would like to see that pro sports media coverage in college. I do think that when you can say it's concussion protocol, but he's not there. And even in his post-game quotes, he said, I talked to Mladen Armas afterwards, and he was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I mean, you tell me. So, I don't know, and I'm sure that, ETSU will sweep this under the rug and all that, but it comes down to a player's safety. I'm going to stick up for the player, and all that. So, say what you will. Other news revealed in the press conference, there will be a home-and-home series with Appalachian State next year. That's going to be great in the men's basketball season. Let's see here. What else did we have here? Jerome Rodriguez, like I said. The idea why he couldn't play in the NBA, and Rodriguez at 11 rebounds a game last year could be the best rebounder in the country returning. Remember that. He doesn't have the three-point shot. That's what Steve Forbes says. So, fair criticism there and on Rodriguez's game, but his return to ETSU easily makes the Buccaneers the favorite in the SoCon next year. They should win it, and the pressure is now on, I guess, Steve Forbes and such. So there you go. Anyhow, I'm not the only guy who people have been angry at. Trevor Bauer is getting death threats up there in Cleveland. He's outspoken as well. And so, but there was a lot of baseball news, and remember, we're going to talk a lot of ETSU, who's going to play quarterback, how the Bucs will do on the hardwood next year. 1:30, Jay Santos coming back after this. Tri-City Sports Now.
As you age is called presbycusis. Almost 1/3 of the